J.K. Rowling about to Lombardium Leviosa some Bitcoin Boulah's bags. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't. Well. Welcome back to Krown's Clickbait Cave, where today's daily meme is now J.K. Rowling getting involved in Bitcoin. As I look at Twitter this morning, there's like a nuclear discussion going on between the author of the Harry Potter series and Bitcoin. Bitcoin, very interesting people and also very educated people as well, but very enlightening to read through those threads nonetheless. Anyways, I do want to wish you a happy and healthy start to your Saturday morning or your weekend just in general, no matter where you are in this beautiful world. Well, not so beautiful right now. It's actually quite shitty out. It's raining, and while I typically do like the rain, I don't want the rain today because I'm gonna go run some errands to get some more PC parts later today. So they're gonna have to survive some moisturizer, it looks like. Anyways, that also makes me realize that I should let you know I'm not going to be on Twitch today until I get this new computer completely finished and set up and everything. I will not be doing any live streams on Twitch, but I have been uploading gaming content to my new gaming channel at Total Krown here on YouTube. You're more than welcome to check on it out. I totally understand that most people, the majority of people, not going to be interested in that, but yes, I am that nerd. I mean, I look at this all day, you know, Bitcoin and trading, or not Bitcoin, but trading in general is like a game to me to begin with. So what else do you think I'm going to be interested in? So yeah, go check that on out if you are interested in such things. If not, please feel free to not do anything like that. It's rather embarrassing. But we have a lot to talk about today with regards to following up on yesterday's short-term time frame analysis. We did hit that 9100-ish level that we had marked off from yesterday. Now Bitcoin bouncing back up in the early morning hours. But where does that kind of leave us for the rest of the weekend? And more importantly, what does it set us up for on the higher term time frames? More importantly, the CMEs closed for the weekly yesterday, so that's going to be a big focus day as well. And with all of that said, I'd like to wish you the best of the best and the happiest of the happiest, because it's fucking free to do, man, and hopefully it can only help. Anyways, looking at the Krown trading application here, which can be found at app.krowntrading.net and is 100% free, by the way. We do see that open interest is kind of still in that twilight zone between 750 million and about 900 million. We are starting to see it creep up towards that 900 million marker once again, but being the weekend, I don't really expect all that much here, although expectations terrible thing to have in a trader's lexicon. But what I'm really looking for to kind of declare the next, not declare, that sounds so lofty, but to kind of confirm the next sort of phase in this market is I want to see a massive boost up, at least another 100 million added on open interest, preferably over a billion in total, as you can see right here, plus breaking one of the higher term time frame ranges, which we'll get into in just a little bit. So keep that in the back of your mind's eye. Still holding true, and has actually been really kind to us over this past week with kind of keeping expectations curtailed, I suppose, more within reason. And we'll also be looking at historical volatility expected move with regards to historical volatility percentile a little bit later, because that's actually going to really help out this short term and medium term analysis right now. Anyways, higher term time frames more or less the same. What's going on over there? She needs a title, and I'm trying to record a video. Hey, trying to do something right now. It's called, I'll just type it out to you on Discord right now. Sorry, my girlfriend or Elsa over here is editing videos. And let's see. Okay, what's it gonna be? Okay, let's try that. Okay, beautiful. Anyways, yes, where was I? Okay, great. Crypto Fear and Greed Index currently at a 41, so still more or less within the same range there. We really still see it in the fearful zone, even though Bitcoin has been on kind of a tear like the last month and a half, going more than 2x up from the 4,400 lows. And that to me is still a little bit more on the bullish side overall, just because you'd expect that to really be getting into the greedy territory if the market is, getting a little bit too exuberant, which, I do kind of feel like there is a little bit of that, but regarding the actual metrics, which you can measure over time, more importantly, they would disagree. So fair enough. Perhaps that is yet again another good indication. So let's go into the actual price action analysis charts right here. Start off with the weekly. I do want to check out CMEs. CME did have a decent weekly dildo closure, which did more importantly confirm a beautiful bounce off the 21 and 55 cross right here. So as long as we're kind of hanging around this region, above the 89.50ish region on a weekly closing basis, I really have no reason to be like long-term bearish or looking for like a big bad breakdown. That doesn't mean that we can come all the way back down to that region. Completely fine. And I actually, in the shorter term time frames, I think that's relatively possible, especially coming into this next week. And it also offers up a very easy way to be trading this going forwards. If Bitcoin does take out the high or the low of this presumed doji diddle right here, I do believe that we're going to see continuation for, thousands of dollars in whichever direction that it does break first. So again, from a breakout trader standpoint, this is actually one of the times where actually would be doing that, even though I do already have, for full disclosure, a long position from about 8,200, I believe it is, which actually offers up a very easy dynamic right here, just because that is the low of last week's dildo. So if we do take that out to the downside, I would look for extension, another $1,000 to our lower levels that we've been saying, to about 7,000, and then probably a big bounce there, and then we'll come back and reassess, see if there's more continuation in order, or if that's going to be the next major macro low. And by the same token, now we could actually, even instead of using last week's high at 10,220 on CMEs, I'd actually be using this week's high, because doji dildos typically are a signal of indecision, perhaps even reversal. So when you do get follow through on top of that, typically going to be very, very efficacious in getting more and more price action accumulated in that same direction. What I'm trying to say is continuation in a fucking backwards way. Jesus Christ, man. Sorry about that. I do apologize. And I do apologize for also using Jesus Christ as well. There's been some complaints about that in the comments. Please understand my very lazy way of expressing myself is just simply that. It's just simply that. It's not intended to have any harm. And if that does, for whatever reason, piss you off, well, it is. The refund button is on the subscribe button, so there you go. Anyways, it's like you can't really complain about free content, man. Anyways, okay, cool. So while we're here on the weekly 4 CMEs, momentum also is still looking good, still pointing north, and we do see that weekly jewel is giving that nice continuation bounce here. I wouldn't necessarily say that this was a signal, but it was a holiday or long signal for sure. And we do see that weekly RSI, more importantly, still playing out this, hey, where did it go? Oh, that's right. I have a different RSI over here, so that's why it's not. Oh, no, it is still there. So yes, more importantly with the weekly RSI, we did break this falling wedge to the upside confirmed. Now, is this confirmed in the sense that, like, you really expect this to just absolutely blast off like on this next tick? No, not yet, because what we need to see is next week basically head back above this region right here, which you can see would be marking off a price of about 10,378. Which would be indicative of continuation here to the upside. By the same token, if we do come back down, can we redraw this as something like this? Technically, yes. This is why I really dislike wedges in general, because that is actually the right way that you're supposed to do it. But for right now, I would roll with the former presumption and give it a chance. We should have more clarity on the situation once CMEs open on Sunday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Actually, until then, we can only be looking at spot. But for right now, things are following through and looks more or less good. And from a moving average perspective on the weekly, I do like this setup right here. A beautiful cross between these two babies as price action tests, and so far the reaction has been good. So I wanted to kind of start off with that on today's analysis, just because I want to have that as like my encompassing mindset when I go through the lower term timeframes now on a bullshit weekend typically. So let's go on over here to Bitcoin. And by the way, hold on, I actually want to follow up on this from last week. Remember last weekend, I've been saying this for the last 2 years now, or over 2 years, I suppose. Anytime that you see a move on the weekend that is contrary to the week's direction, not very rarely, I've never seen continuation on a reversal that happens on the weekend that gets sustained during that next week's direction. Okay, did I say that properly? What I'm trying to say is, last weekend we had this dump right in over here. I was saying during that time, listen, ever since CME's debuted, we've never seen a reversal that happens on a weekend get sustained during the week's direction that was contrary to the prior week's direction. In this case, to the upside, weekend comes down, and then what happens after that? Well, we head back on up. And so I would say that any sort of I'm always keeping that in the back of my mind's eye during these weekend events. And as it stands right now, lower term timeframes for Bitcoin do look a little bit strange here, do look like they could very easily come back down to like a 8,900 base. But still, the blue boxes of peace and prosperity are kind of how to be playing this. We saw a nice interplay basically off the same areas that we've had in here for the last couple weeks, still working. So I really have no reason to change that. And realistically, the same sort of analysis applies from yesterday to today. That I'd be trading the same way as well, even though I don't really trade trade on weekends. I'm basically covered with like I think I covered with like 9,000 strike calls and maybe like half night. Let me go check. Okay, let's see. What did I do here? Half 9,000 strike calls, and then the other half. What is this? 88.75 strike. So I'm fully covered there and risk below, I suppose. But I do like that as a pivot because, well, that would be our lower blue box right here now, wouldn't it? Below 9,000, I'll just get rid of that spot long and perhaps reposition, perhaps not. But I would still hold the short premium expiring tomorrow. Okay, cool. Anyways, so as it stands right now, just kind of I suppose wrap up the lower term timeframes because really nothing's different here. Any sort of a move below, not any sort of move, but any sort of like a 4-hour total closure below 9,300 even, I would look for another swipe back down to 9,000 even. Perhaps another short-term time frame bounce there, but these ranges are so damn close to each other. Like that's not really. I wouldn't really consider that tradable unless you're just trading on the peripheries, which is completely fine. That's actually my preferred way of trading. I do not really trade breakouts almost ever, unless if I just happen to be in a good position to begin with, and I usually start it from a supported resistance beforehand. So it's not like I'm really trading the breakout anyways. So looking at this area right here, it's really the $9,000 level right now that I think is more relevant, just because this area right here, while it is relevant at 93.50 ish, give or take about $50, it's just it doesn't really add too much to any sort of like trading regimen, at least mine right now. But I do feel like for the purpose of thoroughness, probably should have it in there. Yes, it does matter. But would I be trading it like that? It's just too close. Not enough edge on this. Not enough meat on the bones right now. By the same token, to the upside, the long-term area is still very much relevant, right around 9,800-ish region. That area is, if I could remind myself, the combination or the accumulation of many different major resistances from all higher timeframes and macro timeframes alike. We do see the 618 Fibonacci retracement from the ultimate high to the ultimate low of the 3,100 low right here in 2019. And the $14,000 high right here about 6 months later in June 2019. We also see the descending trend line coming in from the $14,000 highs as well, getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if we were to approach again, seven highs right there. Although I would say, approaching it that many times is not bearish. And I'm actually, and realistically, I should show you one chart that just summarizes my thoughts, but I'll get through this first. Of course, this area is also fraught with peril back from our late February major dump from 10,000 down to 4,400. And of course, also a major fake out right here on one of the times that I think China, I think they unbanned it right here when Bitcoin boosted up from about 7,500 to 10,500 right here. But same sort of region, right? It's all coming into this blue box territory. So we're talking about liquid zones, we're talking about order blocks, we're talking about long-term fake outs, we're talking about long-term descending trend lines. We're also talking about, major Fibonacci retracements as well. The 618 almost always gets played. And of course, the volume profile would also show some significant interest in this region as well. And you can see that, there is a relative change of behavior, above that last little prior high. So a little bit above that 1900-ish level, but I do believe that 1900 does get it nonetheless. So what am I saying essentially? Well, before I get into sort of the picture that I'm trying to paint, I suppose I should round out the daily first. And of course, we do have the golden cross fully and formally confirmed. This is with a 55, by the way, as well, which I do put more weight on just because it's gonna be a little more conservative here. And more importantly, you're seeing divergence already being created between all these major moving averages on the lower periods between the higher periods, which is telling us that the bots and algos are playing this. And more importantly, the fucking trend. Jesus Christ, man. Putting a higher low right on the 21. A few days ago, or I guess earlier this week, and I wouldn't necessarily call this a high just yet. It's certainly not confirmed as such. So it offers up a very easy way to kind of be looking at this. We have continuation, obviously, above the high of this of the 13th of May, which was 99.70. I do believe that any sort of move above there will be followed by another $500 at the very least to 10,500 after that. I don't think that we're going to pop back up there again, just get rejected. Here's a big thing that I see a lot of this market getting into right now. It does really seem like a lot of this market, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the market seems to have a bearish bias right now, looking for a big bad retracement. I don't think that that's what's happening right now. Now, of course, I'd be happy to be wrong in this one, and I'd be more than appropriate to change my position. But I believe that the areas here are very, 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 very well documented for the higher term timeframes. Anywhere above this high right here, I'm looking for a continuation, at least $500, probably another 1,000 on top of that over time, and that's where the macro really gets very very interesting, talking about 16,000, 20,000. By the same token, anywhere below on a daily little closure, below 8,600, our last little local low right here, I get bearish for at the very least to move back down to like 8,100 base. And realistically, any sort of move below the 9th of May low at 8,100, which would essentially be right in that area, I would look for a continuation, ultimately add another $1,000 to the south side at about $7,000, and then we'll come back and reassess from there. But the way that major moving averages are kind of situated right now, not just on CMEs on the higher term timeframes, but also on spot, on our higher term timeframes as well, look good to me. Momentum oscillator is also about to turn up as well. We do see that daily Stokes are looking for a cross the upside and will cross up to the upside as long as today's daily dodo does close above 8,900. Now, where's 8,900? That's right around the 21 exponential moving average. And what do you know? The 21 exponential moving average would also be demonstrative of another higher low. So do I think that Bitcoin could come back down to 8,900 today and give a test there? Yeah, absolutely. I'd look at that as an opportunity with a very natural and easy risk management point around the last prior low on a closing basis. Very simple stuff. But this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and like I said, I do not trade over the weekends because I really do not like. I really just don't enjoy it. I enjoy trading, but just not on the weekends. I'm also kind of used to like the traditional market schedule as well. So it is good to have some time off. You really don't want to get into like trading addiction, and I've certainly found myself getting into that in prior times. And I realize that my window here is not perfect. So there we go. I'm sure that there's going to be a million comments about that. So great. anyways, so yeah, as long as today's daily closes above 8,900, not only do we put in a higher low, or potentially a higher low, assuming that we actually spike down here, but I would be looking for momentum to continue overall to the upside. And with the next major decision point anywhere above 99.70 or a 4-hour dildo closure above the 9,800-ish level that we had marked off, remember the culmination of all these areas right here, which on a closing basis is exactly where that blue box is. So that's where things really start to get interesting to me. If Bitcoin can close above there, I would look for for almost an immediate continuation to about 10,500. That's where the macro gets that's where the weekly becomes very, very interesting as well. Although technically, I think that's more of a formality. I think that anywhere above last week's high is good at 10,074 for continuation at the very least to 10.5. But technically at that point, we do have a higher high on the weekly, so we are in the process of constructing an uptrend. Don't necessarily have a higher low just yet, so at some point Bitcoin will come back down and scare the ever-loving shit out of everyone. But for right now, looks rather constructive, and I really don't have any real reason to be bearish off this as it is. Like I said, the areas for me to get bearish on it are very well documented, and like I said, I'd be happy to switch around it, and I'm sure that that sort of thing is going to piss off like the TA fucking spoon boys, not TAs, just the spoon boys. Spoon feed me, Krown, I need the spoon, and it's like, you're wrong. It's like, go fuck yourself. Well, hold on, you have to understand that there's a give and a take to every trade, and there's a statistical setup for this. So, looking at something like this right here, I'm happy to have a bullish boner bias as long as we're maintaining the weekly trend, essentially, the daily trend, and as mediated by the weekly structure here. So yes, if Bitcoin could, and like I said, this is more of a formality to me than anything, but if Bitcoin did take out last week's high, again 10,074, I do think that ultimately we'd be heading up to 11,500. Technically speaking, though, you really want to wait until a closure above 10,200, this last prior high right here, or a tick above, doesn't even need to close above, but a tick above 10,550 cents on what is a stamp? Yeah, Bitstamp. And then yes, I'd target another move back up here towards the major area, the macro area of the macro gatekeeper of destiny. The macro gatekeeper of destiny is right there at 11,500. You can see that this area has been a major area for the last couple of years, or more than a couple of years now. Big bad rejection, or sorry, not big bad rejection, but big bad breakdown for 50% back here in January 2018. Double rejection here in late February of 2018, that same year. Then once again, we do see that same rejection coming off the July $14,000 highs in 2019. Then again in August 2019, and if we would actually break that to the upside, realistically, you can have short-term targets, up to like 13, 14,000, but realistically, I'd just be looking for it to retest 16,000, 20,000, and it's just not, I'm not really interested in shorts above 11,500 for like the long term. For the short term, yeah, there's going to be ebbs and flows, of course, as with anything, but I'd be generally bullish, or at least that would be my disposition until proven otherwise. Okay, and then now let me get to the chart that I really should show you at the beginning. That's a 3-day. There's nothing bearish about this setup on the 3-day as it is. We could come all the way back down to the 10 simple, which is actually even a little bit above our last prior low, by the way, at 8,600. And I'd look at that as an opportunity. I think it looks more or less okay here. Yes, momentum oscillators are pointed south, but what would it take to cross them back up? Any sort of a 3-day little closure above 9,700, and this one is rather fresh. We still have another day. Yeah, it closes tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, so it will close alongside the weekly. So, we'll see where obviously we'll get clarity on that situation in literally just a day and a half about. So I'd rather wait for something like that, but assuming that we get any sort of a closure on a 3-day above 9,700, which is pretty much right at that 9,800-ish region as well for the lower term timeframes, well, lower than this essentially, is going to set it up for I do think another big week coming into next week. Buying up the blood of this red dildo right here is like immediately is typically a very good sign, and vice versa for the downside as well. And I really like how momentum also just like start to turn back up above that prior closing high as well. That's really good influence there. We're also seeing historical volatility percentile still expanding here too, so I do like that. It still says that we're more or less within this move, and we actually see the same sort of major moving average cross right here as well between the 21 and 55. Same test as you see on the weekly, and so far so good. And the more and more that Bitcoin price action stays above, especially the 10 simple, the lowest period moving average on the board right now, these guys will naturally gain more and more divergence away from each other, and that's just the bots and algos playing out this cross essentially, which you see both on the daily golden cross, 3-day 21 and 55, and then the weekly same one right there as well. So I really like how all these guys more or less agree with each other. Now the weekly, I do want to see the 10 simple cross above all these. And probably when it does, we probably will get a nice big pullback. But to remind myself, the 2-day had the golden cross right here, test down to the 21, perfect response. Still putting in higher lows as far as the macro, as far as the trend goes, and it rhymes, so it's even better. So fair enough. And we do see that 2-day Stokes are coming down here. What would it take to get them to cross back to the upside? 90, 98.50, perfectly aligned right in the region that we have marked off to the top side. So that's a great, or at least in my opinion, that's a great management area for further continuation of the upside to numbers that actually matter. Even for like the longer term traders, I do think 2-day RSI maintaining above the exponential as well. I do look at this as constructive overall as long as that's above. 2-day historical volatility percentile, we're seeing it's kind of flatten out on the moving average as we spoke about yesterday. What I really want to see is the moving average now get a positive slope alongside another spike up, and that would be a damn good signal that we will see that continuation, we'll see that expansion phase go in the direction of continuation. Daily, we already looked at this one. 12-hour, what do we see here? Now 12-hour Stokes are interesting because I just put so much weight on them. We do have a resistance trend line coming in right here, right around the edge of the bullish control zone, which is concerning. That's probably my best bearish look on this. Also, a 12-hour Joule could very easily line up for a big sell signal here, or a continuation sell signal, which this, coming after a decent one right here is probably going to be pretty damn nasty. The last one did catch a move from about, not the actual top, but from about 9,700 down to 8,000. So pretty damn good, I would say. And momentum also just for our Stokes will stay to the upside as long as we're above 91.50. So you know what? That actually really does add validity to the shorter term time frame ranges that I proposed, as it's while I do think that 9,300 is relevant for the short term, it's just too close to the area that actually does matter, where I think like the short term actually changes around and leads on into the medium term, and that's about 91.50. And I could collapse this area a little bit more, make it 9,100 to 91.50ish region, have it be a nice $50 range, and as long as Bitcoin's closing 4 hours above there, or even just if we use yesterday's is this yesterday's or today's? Yeah, yesterday's 4-hour low at 9,100 even actually on Mexico, I would look for a continuation down to, well, at the very least 8,900, but realistically probably down here towards 86. Until that happens, the trend is your friend. The trend is your friend here, quite literally speaking. So going back to the 12-hour for a second, where does that align with? That aligns with our 12-hour momentum oscillators turning back to the south side. So if that area was to be broken, do I think that we'd stop at 8,900 and just bounce back up to the heavens? No, I don't think think so. I think that we'd just be beginning at the very least for a move down to 8,600. Perhaps, Bitcoin puts another low there. I think that that's possible, especially coinciding with the 3-day that we were looking at earlier. But that's now a $600, $700 trade at an $8,000 price point. That's almost 10%. It's really fucking good. So that's what I'd be looking for. I'd kind of just sketch out that 9,300-ish region. I don't think it's, I think it's too close to the areas that actually start to matter a little bit more for bigger price action. There's like $200 on that, or sorry, maybe like $150, $200 edge on that trade. And, not what I'm looking for, but everyone has different dispositions, of course. Back here on the 4-hour, what do we see? We do see that the 4-hour historical volatility percentile is more or less kind of flattened out here on the moving average. I want to see the moving average get a positive slope. It was a downward slope all the way from that early May massive rally, but now it's kind of cooling off a little bit. So I'm curious if we're going into an expansion phase, or if we're going to continue an expansion phase, or if we're going to into a contraction phase. If it's the contraction phase, it looks something like this probably, and we'll have like a resolution on the higher term time frame range somewhere around here, most likely when this is about 75% full or 70% full later in May, about about a week away, so not that far away. But if I do see the moving average on the historic volatility percentile get a positive slope once again, I'd actually look for expansion sooner rather than later, probably in these next few days actually. So yeah, I do think that we're kind of headed into fun times on Bitcoin land. We do see 4-hour Stokes still headed down, and they will remain to the downside as long as we're below 9,700. I think that we already looked at all the other lower term timeframes. 3-hour Stokes will cross the upside if we end this next 3-hour dildo above 9,400. So what I'm actually looking at here is 3-hour, 2-hour are both coming from the same area. 2 hours 9,300 as well. Hourly is showing 9,400. So what? I actually do think that Bitcoin's going to bounce up a little bit more throughout today. Maybe Bitcoin is doing some a little bit more like this, and we just got the test down to our lower support, and so far so good. I suppose I could be looking for another test back up to 9,800-ish region. We just tested supports. After you go test support, you're typically going to go test resistance, and maybe we found it right there. But I would say that that's unlikely if we see all these closures within this next like 8 minute. I think all these guys close. No, sorry, that's just the hourly and maybe 3-hour. No. Okay, I apologize. So I'd wait for the 4-hour close in 1 hour and 8 minutes. So by the time that I post this, we'll have clarity on the situation. Any sort of a closure above 9,400 or even 93 probably does it for at least another test back up to like 97, maybe 98. Do I think that Bitcoin has momentum to break above this critical area on a Saturday? I'd say unlikely. But it will set it up for good posturing for a breakout when CMEs open back up, tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. I can't speak. I can't speak, man. Okay, cool. So how long have I been talking nonsense here? Yes, it's only the TA nerds and myself now. Hello, my friends. It's good to have you here. God damn it, we had to suffer 15 minutes of the Spoon Boys, but now it's just you and me, and I couldn't be more happy about that, man. I actually sincerely couldn't be more happy about that, and it's very cool to see that like a lot of people actually do seem to watch a good majority of these videos, which is fucking awesome, man. Because realistically, as far as analysis goes, maybe like the first 5 minutes are relevant to like the day's action, but like for the TA nerds looking at this with a goddamn microscope, well, that's why we do this, man. Because that's why I enjoy too, man. I'm fucking passionate about that shit. It took me so long to learn that like I feel like I could never really let it go. Anyways, okay, cool. So we've covered up all that. Is there anything that I'm missing here? 10-hour Stokes are probably the most bearish thing to me is 10-hour Stokes. Those do hold a lot of weight. If you want another cheat code, kind of like the 12-hour Stokes, look at the 10-hour actually. Look at the 10-hour. But look at this. Where do they turn back up around? 9,800. So here's the sort of area that I can postulate. I think Bitcoin's playing out a range between about 93 and 9,800 right now. Any sort of a 4-hour total closure above or below that range is probably going to get a good amount of continuation, especially to the upside. That would transact another, what is it, $700 move to 10.5 probably. To the downside, 8,600. So that's, another $600-$700 move as well. And then both those areas really lead into long-term trades for another $1,000 continuation in that same direction. If those next areas are breached essentially on at least a 12-hour closure, I'd say probably gets it. Even a 4-hour probably gets it as well. Okay, cool. Cool. I guess we'll go take a quick look at how traditional markets close the week. What do you know? What do you know? What do you know? Now's futures still hanging it high. It looks like another higher low to me, man. Everyone wants to be bearish on the stock market right now. Listen, I don't care what's in the news. I don't care what the fundamentals are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I know this sounds crazy and it sounds counterintuitive to a lot of people out there, but I found in my trading career that unless you're trading like for the very long term, fundamentals are they do matter. It's just what matters more is speculation. It's kind of fucked up to say, but I found that to be true. And what do we have here? We have another high or low. I think that this probably pops up next week, probably back up to the prior high at 93.50, and probably even gets continuation in that same direction. Any sort of a move above this week's high at 93.45, and I'd look for a continuation to 96.50, 9700. It looks good. I think it's going to hit 10,000 overall, to be honest with you. Longer term, that is. E-mini futures for SPY, not as strong, but likely another high low right here in place. I do think that it pops back up next week to about 29.50, and then we'll see how things move on from there. Gold having a damn good closure as well, confirming the breakout, hitting up to 17.50. I haven't really been covering it too closely, but we broke this area right here. Obviously, more importantly, I've just remained bullish on the higher term timeframes for the last 3-4 months now, and I'd continue to be bullish on this. I think that we even have a new high on this month from the last month, yes. And overall, I'm looking for a continuation up to 20-ish region, and then we'll come back and reassess after that. This is a good chart here. Again, I don't really care about gold overall. I don't care to own any, but as far as charts go, very good chart long term. Let's go see, I guess, Butyrol and Litecoin, because why the fuck not? We're already here. Butyrol doesn't look as strong as Bitcoin. Could very easily come back down to 187, but I look at that as an opportunity. More or less going to follow Bitcoin on the whole. Litecoin is atrocious though. Litecoin's below all major movement is never going to be a good thing. But if Bitcoin moves up here, do I think that Litecoin will as well? Probably yes. If Bitcoin moves down here, do I think that Litecoin's going to get catastrophically killed? Yes. Weekly death cross is very likely to happen, assuming that there's not like a $15 rally between now and tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So fair enough with that. Fair enough. Anyways, back onto Bitcoin. I think I'll start to wrap this one. Or sorry, we haven't even looked at expected moves, have we? Okay, so we'll take this off right here. And so what I look at on expected moves, yes, I do have this 9,300-ish area mapped out, but realistically, it's 9,100 to the downside and 9,800 to the upside. To the upside, that's a higher term time frame area. To the downside, that's a medium time frame area. And now we can go look at probabilities assigned to those levels for for respective time frames. I'll be looking at the 4-hour, 12-hour, and daily. So 9,100, I want to use now. 9,800 stays steady. On a 4-hour total closure, hold on, let me make sure. Let's go to current. On a 4-hour total closure, very, very unlikely that either one gets broken here. So more or less ranging on the short term, probably today, that would be. 12-hour, what are we looking at here? We do see a significant skew in favor of the below target probability, below 9,100. So technically speaking, on a 12-hour total closure, bears do have a chance here to really make their mark. 26.25% is high. 8% above 9,800 is, well, comparatively low. Obviously, you know that. But this kind of tells me that over the weekend, if bears do want to take control for a little bit, they certainly can. On a daily, most importantly though, 9,100 shows 33.12% chance, and above 9,800 shows 16.2% chance, or 16.20% chance, I suppose. So what does that mean? Well, overall, that means that the downside in this next daily total closure is more likely. But let's see how these rings are now squeezing, because I do feel like if bears can fail to really break 9,100 between today and tomorrow, we probably are just naturally going to retest the prior high. I just don't. Listen, you don't get multiple chances to buy the ultimate low. You don't get multiple chances to sell the ultimate high. And you know this to be true because, well, you've seen it most likely, on those major spikes up, on the major lows, and on the major downs, or sorry, on the major highs as well. So, all the people saying, I'm going to short Bitcoin the next time it goes to 10,000 because it's going to 5,000 after that. Well, I mean, okay. Okay. Let's see. Are we on future here? Yes, we are. Still squeezing down. So yes, if bears want to do their thing, this weekend would be a damn good time to do it. For us actually squeezing up, funnily enough. And the 4 hour above target probability is actually higher as well on future bars, that is. But yeah, going back on over here, kind of wrapping this up. If bears do want to bring this thing back down to 8,600, I think that would be completely fine. I look at that as an opportunity. However, I'd look at 9,100 as kind of the gatekeeper for that. Any sort of even a move below there doesn't need to be a closure below, but any sort of a move below 9,100 on Mexico specifically, I would look for extension another $600 to the south, or sorry, $500 to the south side at 8,600, and probably another bounce there. If 8,600 does break, I would look at that as basically a confirmation that this long-term trend line is going to break as well, because we'd probably approach it around that time. And assuming that does happen, which is also the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement, I would look for extension all the way down to 7,500 relatively fast, and then probably bounce there, and then continuation down to 7,000, and then come back and reassess. By the same token, to the upside, the upside is a little more interesting here, just because anywhere above 9,800 on a 4-hour total closure, and especially on even a move above 2 days ago, Thursday's high at 9,970, I would look for extension at the very least to 10.5 right here. Probably a short-term pullback, and that sets it up for a very likely continuation drive above 10.5. Anywhere above 10.5, on a wick basis, I'm looking for another $1,000 to 11.5 ultimately, and on a weekly closing basis, anywhere above 10,150 to 10,200ish region, I'm looking for the same sort of thing, and that sets it up for a macro move. I think that pretty much gets everything that I wanted to talk about today. I want to wish the TA nerds who have stayed all the way to the end a very nice and happy and healthy day. I'll be signing off now. I'm gonna go run some errands and hopefully set up for this coming week. I'll wish you well once again. It's free, man. It's free, so why not? And take care, and until next time.